Racecourse, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's the fourth and final round of the International Race of Champions. Today, we will crown the champion of the IROC. Well, the IROC is always important. Today, it's emotional, and it will definitely be historic. There is so much going on here. The crowd absolutely has cheered from the moment the first empty IROC car pulled out into the pit area. Now, consider what we have that lays ahead. 3 possibilities for a championship. Mark Martin has the most points coming into this race, but Jeff Burton and Jeff Gordon both have a possibility of picking up the championship. It's real simple. Mark Martin simply has to keep the other 2 just ahead of him. And what about the purse payout at the end of the day? It's real easy to make a $125,000 mistake. Now, Benny Parsons, as always, is here with us as well. IROC at Indy, it's something.
It is big. And let's face it, Indianapolis Motor Speedway is the best-known speedway in the world. And for the IROC, for those people to invite IROC here, just puts that stamp of validation on IROC that it's a full-blown great series.
Any chance that they're going to be able to pass?
I think so. I think they'll be able to pass off the corners because it's going to be very tight in the groove on the bottom of the racetrack. That will not be able to pass there, but off the corners, they should be able to pass easily.
Teamwork critical.
Oh, yeah. I think Jeff Burton, Mark Martin, and Jeff Gordon, those NASCAR guys, will have to team up and try to work their way to the front, trying to get to the big money. If they can get to the front, then they'll decide who's going to be the champion. And let's face it, on that last lap, all's fair, love, war, and the last lap.
All right, in the races thus far this year, we've had 3 different winners. Let's consider the starting grid right now as they move on the backstretch. In row 1, Jimmy Vasser from CART, the gold car. Randy LaJoie from the NASCAR Busch Grand National Series in the silver car. In row 2, Dale Jarrett from NASCAR in the lime number 10. And Arie Luyendyk, a 2-time winner here at Indianapolis from the IRL in the bright orange car. In row 3, Tom Kendall from Road Racing, the green number 8. And Tony Stewart in the number 7 car. It is violet. Row 4, Al Unser Jr. from CART. The yellow car, Terry Labonte from Winston Cup in the number 5 Hugger Orange. The 5th row, Dale Earnhardt from Winston Cup, the number 4 medium blue. And Jeff Gordon from the NASCAR Winston Cup Series in the white number 3. The last row, Jeff Burton from the Winston Cup Series in the red number 2. And Mark Martin in the number 1. It's an aqua-colored car. Tony Stewart said he was going to move to the back of the field because he didn't feel he had enough practice time here. Look at that. There are the 12 on the 5/8 of a mile long main straightaway at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, rolling for the green flag, and we're underway. Vasser and LaJoie, the front row. Vasser in the gold car. We're going to find out pretty quick if they can pass because there's some desperate people in the back.
We can see that the bottom lane is the preferred line already. LaJoie lost a spot, moved back to 3rd spot, and there's close contact between the orange car and Tommy Kendall in the green car.
Now watching from Dale Earnhardt's view. Labonte comes by, Gordon on one side, Martin on the other side.
And Earnhardt goes to the rear as Mark Martin and Jeff Gordon trying to work their way to the front. That's Mark Martin has moved up 4 spots already.
The distance is 40 laps, 100 miles. Yellow laps don't count, no pit stops. Jimmy Vasser out in front as they come to the end of the first lap. An important moment for Jimmy Vasser just to be able to accomplish this.
He has led a lap at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the International Race of Champions. We see LaJoie going to the 2nd spot, taking that spot away from Dale Jarrett.
And Mark Martin has begun his move back at the back of the field. There you see him. He comes alongside of Jeff Burton in the red car. Back up to the front. Jimmy Vasser's pulling away.
And Jeff Burton hung on the outside. But he's trying his best to get to Mark Martin. That's Martin in the lime green car, Jeff Burton in the red car. And here goes Earnhardt diving down on the inside. I'm sorry. That was Tony Stewart that dove down on the inside of Earnhardt.
Yeah, remember, Stewart started way in the back of the field. Now Earnhardt comes back with a challenge. You watch from Jeff Burton's car. There goes Gordon. Now, Mark Martin's objective is to simply try to keep Gordon and Burton in his view. He doesn't have to be in front of him. He is right now. but he doesn't have to be. It's much more comfortable to be where he is. What may be the deciding factor, Benny, is how the bonus points. Remember, they give 5 points for leading the most laps, 3 for the second most, 2 for the third most. That could make a world of difference in this championship.
It should make a difference, but those guys starting so far in the rear, all they're trying to get is some positions up towards the front. I don't know if they'll be able to work their way to the front in 40 laps without the aid of pit stops.
So Mark Martin starts in the back, moves to 8th, 12th to 8th in just the first lap and a half. Going into turn 3 at Indy.
Mark Martin right now is in good shape, has worked his way up to about the 8th spot. Here he comes off the corner. Oh,
whoa, up
contact.
against the wall. Leyendijk goes down, takes the inside wall, and tears that car up.
Wow.
And it looked like Burton had some pretty heavy left side damage. So coming off at turn 4, right at the head of the pit area, yellow comes on. Yellow doesn't count. Look at Burton's car. This could mean the end of his day.
And I'm not sure that Jeff Gordon didn't have some damage to his car.
So there were right there 2 of the contenders where the trouble was. Mark Martin was really smart to try and move early and get away from this kind of a situation.
Yes, he was, and we can see that Jeff Burton's day is gone. Severe damage to that car. They may be able to get a backup car for him.
Now, in terms of repair, the IROC crew is good. I don't think they're that good. They are going to stop the run while they get the track clean. Here it is, Benny.
There we see Leyendijk in the orange car as he comes off the corner. And we see the green car. I think that was Kendall that went up and slapped the wall. I tell you what, we tested that new wall, didn't we?
Sure did. That thing worked there. That's an attenuated barrier.
There we see Kendall goes up and smacks the wall, and when he smacks that wall, he comes down and hits the Leyendijk car, and he goes down and smashes in that inside wall.
And Tony Stewart came right through the debris after the accident. There's Kendall. He catches Leyendijk. Boy, there's a lot of damage on Arie Leyendijk's car, but I think that barrier on the inside did help the accident substantially. Look at this.
Now we'll watch the white car. Watch. The damage to Mark Martin's car is made by Burton running into the back of him.
Let's go to the pits, Jack.
Well, Dale Earnhardt had the wherewithal to back up pit road and get service here at the IROC pit area. Dale, you've asked for 4 tires, but can you take us through what occurred out there coming out of turn 4?
Well, I seen Leyendijk spin down. I knew he was probably coming back across to start checking up. He came across in front of somebody, and I jammed the brakes on and flat spotted the tires, but I run over something too and busted one of them, so just was trying to bench it. I hope Arie's not hurt.
Well, Dale Earnhardt will be allowed to change these 4 tires because they were flat spotted. There will not be a penalty. Do you want to see just how flat spotted these tires were? If I can get my cameraman to take a look. When you lock it up at Indy, you burn right through the cord, right down to the inner liner.
Yeah, that's not a problem with the tire. That's just the way it is. With debris all over the straightaway, they've red flagged the International Race of Champions. Back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we're getting ready to go green after the red flag session. Good news, according to Dr. Henry Bach of the Indianapolis Speedway Medical Center, Arie Leyendijk is awake, he's alert, he's articulate, he's talking, but he might have a slight concussion, so they're going to send him down to Methodist Hospital where they can do a thorough check on him. Now, as the cars begin to roll toward the green, let's look at what set up that situation.
There we see the first 4 cars come off. The green car, Tommy Kendall, goes up and brushes the wall off turn 4. He comes down and hits Leyendijk. He loses control as he tries to dodge Kendall. And watch these 4 cars as they all slam on the brakes and run into each other, trying their best to dodge Leyendijk.
Unfortunately, all the contenders in the championship fight were behind the accident. During the red flag, Jack Arute talked with Tom Kendall.
Tommy, what happened out there?
Well, we were just trying to get settled in. Al Jr. just gotten by me, and, early on in these races, the cars tend to get kind of loose, and so I was trying to just be careful of that. But I got a little bit out of the groove coming off of 4 and picked up a big push and just skated into the outside wall and tried to keep it up against the wall. Ari, I think, was either behind me, tried to get by but didn't, and all hell broke loose at that point.
So with 2 of the key contenders, Jeff Burton and Jeff Gordon, actually involved in the accident, some way Mark Martin was able to get through fairly unscathed.
This is Mark Martin. Watch that as he just barely gets by that crash.
Unfortunately, though, as Ari came off the wall, Jeff Burton found himself in real trouble and had to jump on the brakes. During the red flag, he too talked with Jack Arute.
Well, Jeff Burton, your car's been shortened up considerably. Your version of what occurred?
I don't know what he started spinning, and I don't know what started him spinning. I saw him hit the inside wall, and he hit it so hard that he was coming back across the track. And only thing I could do I thought he was going to come back across, and the only way I could miss him was to just, run wide open and run into. There was stuff all over the track. I knew I was going to run into him. I knew I was going to run into the car in front of me, but I didn't want to hit him. And so it tore my car all to pieces. But I didn't want to hit him. He hit hard enough, and his car was tore up pretty bad. So I wanted to make sure I didn't hit him. It wasn't going to hurt the white car. It was Gordon for me to hit him. It wasn't going to hurt me for me to hit him. And I just, I hope he's okay.
And there's the devastation to Ari Leyendyke's car, but Jeff Burton's car also heavily damaged. So damaged, in fact, that he will not be able to continue on. And that means that for Jeff Gordon to win the championship, he must win the race and get at least 2 bonus points for leading laps. So Mark Martin just may have a cruise to the championship. On the other hand, there's still a race title to pick up.
And under IROC rules, these cars will restart on the caution flag 2 abreast, just like the start of the race. The first time they've been able to do this, it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen down in turn 1 as they start on the restart 2 by 2.
So in a lot of ways, it's lap 1 all over again. We're really only 2 laps in the record book. Yellow flags do not count. And of course, many of these cars were worked on, and most of them had tires changed. So for the most part, they should be back up to full race form. The real question is on that white car of Jeff Gordon. There's some tape there where they've made some aerodynamic repairs on it. Hopefully that will stand up for him. But again, the good news is here at Indianapolis, aerodynamics does not seem to be as critical as it might be if you were on a Daytona or on a Michigan Speedway.
Yes, any racetrack that you touch the brakes, aerodynamics is not the main factor. Chassis, the mechanical advantage, becomes the chief factor as to what it takes to get around the racetrack. There we see going in turn 3.
Here's something to think about here. We said this is the largest crowd ever to see an IROC race. I think that's absolutely true. I know you're going to look and say, well, look at all those empty seats. Let me remind you, they do not give the official count here, but a very close source to the inside named Tony George once told me that there are over 330 permanent seats in this place, making it the world's largest stadium. So even if it's a third full, there are 110,000 people in there.
Yes, and there's a lot of races that the NASCAR Winston Cup cars go to that do not seat 110,000 people. Here we see the cars coming down, pace car leading them. Should be seeing the green flag this time.
Jimmy Vasser, the gold car. Randy LaJoie, the silver car. Al Unser Jr. sitting right behind LaJoie. And here we go. Back up to speed. As Benny mentioned, double file restart. That's the first time they've actually used it in the IROC. And it gave everybody a great chance. Vasser moves high. And Jarrett down on the inside, grabs second.
Jarrett dives to the inside of LaJoie with that preferred line. We'll see Mark Martin back in about 6th or 7th spot. This is Dale Jarrett, the second place car. You ever see Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt trying to draft by Mark Martin.
This is going to be the key. Ride now with Jeff Gordon. He's the guy that's really got to get the job done. And look how careful Mark Martin is being with it.
Jeff Gordon is riding with a very wounded race car, guys. They used a lot of duct tape, especially on the front end. You see that blue and orange? That is 200-mile-an-hour tape right in the front air dam. And Benny Parsons, you need that air dam to be effective here to get through the corners.
You really need it for it to work. Meanwhile, up front, they're 3-4 abreast. Look at the front bumper on that. There we see Al Unser Jr. diving to the inside of Randy LaJoie. Takes over the 3rd spot.
Unser Jr., that bright yellow car, they actually did split 3 wide coming down the front stretch as everybody looked for clean air into the radiators and got back in line as they headed for turn 1. Now they come off of turn 2. Jimmy Vasser is still the leader. Second place is still Jarrett. New third place now in the person of Al Unser Jr.
Al Unser Jr. trying to work for that second spot. He's trying to look on the inside of Jarrett. Is he going to make it? He backs off. He takes the second spot away.
Al Unser Jr. going through the turn that was so critical for him in his race against Emerson Fittipaldi that might have made little Al a 3-time winner in the Indianapolis 500.
And LaJoie takes over the third spot from Jarrett.
Silver car back up into third place. And see Jeff Gordon, the white car, as he's lined up right behind Jarrett. He's got to get to the front. He not only has to get there once he's there, he's got to lead laps. Across the short chute on the south end, heading for turn 2. No changes here. 5/8 of a mile, the back stretch. 9 degrees, 12 minutes, the bank at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Al Unser Jr. calls it the good old billiard table. It's so smooth and so flat. Still Jimmy Vasser out in front. Remember his run at Charlotte? He first, his rookie year in the IROC, and he practiced the start. Had a great run going, and then his kart teammate, Alex Zanardi, got into an accident that closed everything up, and Jimmy Vasser, who had the race for all practical purposes locked up, ended up losing the whole thing. He pays very close attention to how to race these cars and stay in the front. Now Al Unser Jr. closing on him.
Yes, he is right behind him. Now here's the place that you've got to be able to pass. As you come off that second corner, try to get a run down the backstretch. It doesn't look like Unser will get that run this time.
Little Al falls a bit off as they come onto the backstretch. But think of the thousands of miles that Al Unser Jr. has logged in at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And with 2, almost 3 victories here, he certainly knows his way around probably better than anybody else on this racetrack right now. No change at the back of the order. And Mark Martin continues to relax back in 7th place because he knows it's his to lose right now in terms of the championship.
Jeff Gordon thought that Tony Stewart was going to go with him. They were going to take a look on the inside of Jarrett, but Stewart decided not to do it.
So at Indianapolis, after the red flag, we are back running in race 4 of the IROC. Jimmy Vasser is out in front. Back at Indianapolis, Mark Martin now has begun to move, comes forward, moves to 4th, and then just now takes 3rd place away from Randy LaJoie. So Mark Martin, despite the fact that he could sit back, take it easy, is definitely moving toward not only the championship, but the race win. His championship competitor, Jeff Gordon, currently lies in 3rd place. They're about 150 yards back. Gordon lies back in 5th place, about 150 yards back. And you can see right there, Terry Labonte's working on it.
Yes, Jeff Gordon loses another spot, as Mark Martin must love these IROC cars. They must fit him like a brand new pair of gloves because he has marched from the very last place up to 3rd spot, and right now he's closing in on the front 2 cars.
Benny, I think maybe the reason why you're seeing Mark Martin uncharacteristically try to run to the front, even though he knows he's got the championship all but locked up, because it's Indianapolis, because it's the first time that the IROC cars have ever competed here on the famed Speedway. Don't forget, Mark Martin has never been to Indy Victory Lane.
Just past the halfway point, Mark Martin. We said it would be emotional. It definitely is. All of these guys are thinking not only is it the IROC, it's my chance to win at Indy. Don't forget, next on ABC Sports, the Tour de France special. It's been an eventful month for the Tour. Don't miss the drama of the last weekend. Vasser, Unser Jr., the yellow car, Mark Martin, and then Randy LaJoie, the front 4. And then a separation back to Terry Labonte.
Labonte right now is a couple seconds behind this first 4 cars before they come off the close to that turn 4 wall as they exit turn 4.
Marking the conclusion of lap 21, just past the halfway point, 40 laps, the distance schedule. You know, it's interesting. They brought the crowd in today, no reserve seats, general admission. You talk about the knowledgeable race fan. Right away, the key areas we're observing were just absolutely full. And they really know exactly where to go. More importantly, they know how to get there and get there quickly.
Turn 4 was obviously the first place to fill up with spectators.
And, of course, leading on the 21st lap, he has clinched the 5 bonus points for leading the most laps. Mark Martin still sitting in the back of Al Unser Jr. now. And I'm assuming, Benny, that the game, boy, look how LaJoie came out and rounded off to the wall. I'm assuming the game now is, if you can, to try and save tires.
I think that is critical because we saw LaJoie. We've seen all these cars come right up against the outside retaining wall. It looks like these tires are getting a little bit worn, and they're trying to slip. They're starting to slip as the cars come off the corner. Once again, LaJoie really slides that car right against the outside retaining wall.
And Jack Arute, the IROC crew has done a lot of work preparing the car aerodynamically for Indy.
But, Paul, one of the big problems is visibility. Now, the drivers have this rear spoiler area. They said they couldn't see. So what did the IROC guys do? They made the rear spoiler clear. So when you look in the rearview mirror, you're looking back through the Lexan.
Jimmy Vassar, Al Unser Jr., Mark Martin. Mark Martin's right up there now. Always kind of neat the way some of the different racing mechanics inventively solve what seemed to be insurmountable problems. The look back from Unser Jr. to Martin, the look forward, Martin to Jr.
Mark Martin had a little bit of a run off turn 4, tried to take Unser Jr. When he saw it was not going to work too well, he quickly moved back in to fill that spot before LaJoie could drive in behind Al Unser Jr.
Plunger.
Rock at Indy. I'm Paul Page with Benny Parsons, Jack Arute down on the pits. You ride with Mark Martin, who sits in the position to take an unprecedented and historic 4th IROC championship if he can simply stay there. Jeff Gordon has been sliding steadily backwards. He's back in 9th place now. So really, it's a battle for the race. 2 CART FedEx Series drivers, Jimmy Vassar and Al Unser Jr., 1st and 2nd. And then Mark Martin is carrying the flag for the Winston Cup Series, and now he takes a look inside of Al Unser Jr.
He's got position. He's going to get him. As they go down the backstretch into turn 3, it will be Mark Martin in the 2nd place. Now, if he can keep the car on the bottom of the racetrack and Unser Jr. doesn't drive him back under him, he will have that spot.
So Mark Martin makes another move, brings him further forward. Without question, he's the fastest car on the track. They've been averaging these top 3 over 156.2 miles an hour throughout the run. So Jimmy Vassar unchallenged right now. Mark Martin signaling back to Little Al. Looks like he'd like him to come up and give him a little help.
That's exactly what he'd like. Get as close as you can because 2 cars will run faster nose to tail than 1 car, or the gap like this. They need those cars close together, just inches apart.
Fellas, Mark Martin knew that the tires might be an issue here. Not that they would wear out, but that excessive heat due to the fact that you're in the corners so much would make them less adhesive near the end of the race. From my vantage point, it looks as if maybe Mark Martin has marshaled the tires the best of the first 3 cars. Now he's got a little bit more, Benny Parsons, to chase down Jimmy Vassar.
It appears that way, Jack.
Down that long backstretch, works into turn 3. The Goodyear blimp Spirit of Akron giving us these shots. Proud to be a part of the celebration for the 100th anniversary of Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. And for over 70 of those years, Goodyear blimps have been making appearances over spectacular events, such as today's running of the IROC at Indy. Now, as you look at the group there, look way back here. He's a good 16 seconds behind the fight, Tommy Kendall, because he was in that accident, a full straightaway behind. But this Hoosier Racing crowd, every time he goes by, they roar for him.
What's that all about?
They got to encourage the guy along.
Obviously, Kendall's contact that he made with the outside retaining wall has bent the car so it has rendered the car uncompetitive.
So now Mark Martin is moving right up behind Jimmy Vassar. And he worked Al Unser Jr., pushed him out a second. Now he's ready to work on Jimmy. We'll be back. Al Unser Jr. sits in third place. Martin looks to the inside going into turn one. The two Martin drops back.
These Pontiac Firebirds, Paul, are so close in speed that it is difficult to pass. You have to work and try to get that perfect situation to get by that car in front of you. Because basically, as you can see, 156.3 to 156.7 miles per hour the last lap.
I've heard the drivers time and time again talk about being gentle with these cars. Being gentle with a race car?
Really, to turn the steering wheel delicately. Don't just go in there and turn the steering wheel with a violent, because if you do that, you're going to wear the tires. You're going to get the tires hot, just like Jackaroo was talking about a moment ago.
Also, you turn the wheel, it slows you down. It becomes a brake.
Exactly.
So Jimmy Vasser has his mirror full of Mark Martin right now. Al Unser Jr. been working back and forth. You can see the run there with Unser Jr. as the quickest car on the last lap. But Unser Jr. has been searching. He's been high, he's been low. He's been trying to find what he needs for the last laps of this run.
And there's no doubt that Al Unser Jr. in the yellow car has more laps around this Indianapolis Motor Speedway than any driver in this race. And you know that he's trying to find that perfect group, because if it works in an Indy car, it'll work in the Pontiac Firebird.
Everybody's steady in place right now on a flat track like here at Indianapolis. To make the Firebird corner well, it's back to the basics. Here's Jack Arute in today's Mechanics of Racing.
In the past, we've talked a lot about the tire patch, the contact area between a tire and the racetrack. Well, here at Indianapolis, it's extremely critical. In fact, when you're driving down the straightaway here at Indy, the car literally wants to turn left by itself. So much so, the drivers introduce a little bit of right wheel or right rudder to make the car stay straight. But down into the corner, it's a whole different ball game. The way the IROC mechanics compensate and make the car turn naturally left is through caster and camber. Quite simply, caster is the center line area of a tire as it relates to the front end assembly. If you add positive caster, the wheel leads a little bit, negative backwards. But the most important issue here is camber. That's the lean angle of a tire. Going down the straightaway here at Indianapolis, the tire is literally leaning out at maximum camber, so that when you turn into these flat corners, the suspension kicks in with the shock absorbers, the tire starts to stand up straight and gives you maximum tire patch down in the corners. Now, there's 4 distinct corners at Indianapolis, so it's extremely critical, because you've got to get around with a good tire patch 160 separate times.
Right now, it's working for Mark Martin as he's beginning to worry Jimmy Vasser, the leader of the run.
A good sweat isn't...
At Indianapolis, Mark Martin, who has been the fastest car the past several laps, now right on the rear bumper of Jimmy Vasser and beginning to take a look at him as they go into turn 3. Key passing areas, turn 3, turn 1.
Al Unser Jr. watches all this. He wants to go with Mark Martin. If Martin makes that move, he wants to be able to take advantage and follow. Right now, Mark Martin is simply waiting for Jimmy Vasser to make a mistake. Hopefully, he will make a mistake. But the cars are set up so good, and these drivers are so good, that mistakes rarely happen in IROC competition.
And Benny, this setup is almost, at least from an aero package standpoint, exactly the same type of setup we saw at the high-banked Michigan Speedway. One of the reasons why is because these Pontiac Firebirds are so aerodynamic that they actually had to try and take some of the aero push, so to speak, out of these cars. They discovered the cure at the Michigan outing, and they all showed up here at Indy with the same fix towards the front end of the car down by the fender wells as they carried in Brooklyn.
The whole battle and everything that matters is right here at the top 3. Randy LaJoie sitting back almost 2 seconds behind this fight for the lead. And remember, $125,000 difference in payoff in between that rear bumper of Jimmy Vasser's car and the front bumper of Mark Martin. Championship money, of course. Mark Martin, the man with the championship at the moment, and with Jeff Gordon all the way back in 9th place, doesn't look like he has any opportunity in the remaining 5 laps to close in. Unless, of course, something critical happens here at the front. And they are pretty close on a 50-foot wide racetrack.
Well, they are close, but Jeff Gordon has to lead some laps. And it's just difficult to see all these cars having a problem and Jeff Gordon being able to get by those cars and lead laps in the few laps remaining.
Yeah, let me play the devil's advocate. These two guys get in trouble. All three of them tangled. They're done. Now, Jeff Gordon comes up to become the leader. Only other guy that's led laps is Jimmy Vasser. Suddenly he's got those laps and maybe the win.
But you got to worry about Randy LaJoy. He's got to worry about LaJoy and Labonte and Stewart and all the rest of those guys.
Don't ruin it for me.
Oh, I see.
Still a good fight at the front. No question about that. Good news once again is Arie Luyendyk might have a slight concussion. They sent him over to Methodist Hospital for observation after an unbelievably visual accident. Martin going into one, takes a look down low once again, running a decidedly lower line now than the leader, Jimmy Vasser, in the gold car.
He wants to run a little bit low because if he can get down there, he can get a little bit of air on the nose of that Pontiac, and that air will help that Pontiac turn and take away that aero push that Jack Root was talking about.
They come off the wall. As a matter of fact, you want to come off the wall when you come off the corner because the wall will actually tug at you a little bit if you stay out too close to it. Jimmy Vasser still leads. Mark Martin on his way to a championship, and Al Unser Jr. in third. Back at Indianapolis, Mark Martin makes his move on Jimmy Vasser as they flash across the stripe. At the end of the 37th lap, Mark Martin, now Al Unser Jr. comes inside of Vasser. This is exactly what Benny predicted. They've been waiting for the moment when they could make the move, and when they made it, they both made it together.
Exactly. Now, can Al Unser Jr. catch Mark Martin? You wouldn't think so, because Mark Martin clearly on our computer here is shown to be the fastest car all day long. He passed Al Unser Jr. earlier, but in trying to catch and pass Vasser, has he used too much of his tires up? Has Unser been laying back, saving his tires? And the time we'll find out as we see 3 laps to go.
Mark Martin seems to have the miles per hour, but let's not discount Al Unser Jr.'s years of experience on this track. Hasn't been here since 1994. Last time he was here, it was in Victory Lane at the Speedway. We'll take a look at the speeds as they hit the line. Now with 2 to go when they make it to the line, Mark Martin as the leader.
You see Mark Martin still,
Well, look at that. Isn't that interesting? Dale Jarrett running down, way down the order.
Was the fastest lap. Once again, we go back to the point that I made, that these cars are so close. Dale Jarrett is running back in 7th spot, but that lap had the fastest lap of all the cars running.
They're also so sensitive. You get a little help here, you don't get it there. 2.5-mile track, a couple of hundredths of a second makes a world of difference in speed.
It does make a world of difference there. We see Mark Martin coming off, going down the short chute. Junior knows, as you can tell by the graphic, he knows how to win in these IROC races.
Yeah, that's a good point. Not only good at Indy, but real good in the IROC. White flag comes out. 2.5 miles to go. Mark Martin on his way to an IROC championship, chased by Al Unser Jr. Jimmy Vasser, who was the leader, has now fallen off about 200 yards.
You know, Mark Martin, today, if we had a race winner and a champion, there would be 2 cars in Victory Lane. Mark Martin doesn't want to share that limelight with anyone. 1 car today in Victory Lane, the winner of the race and the winner of the 1998 IROC Championship.
You know, that is cool, because I was thinking we could see history in that regard. There have been 2 cars in Victory Lane at Indianapolis. Mark Martin's just about to ruin that for us. He's going to win not only the championship, but the 4th and final round of the International Race of Champions, and the first run ever at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The IROC at Indy. The crowd's been waiting for it. They've been pumped up about it. It's been a great crowd here today. And Mark Martin makes history in a history-making run at Indianapolis as he takes his 4th IROC championship and 3 in a row. His 8th IROC event win. And he moves into 2nd place on the all-time list behind 2nd place Al Unser Jr.
Well, Mark Martin makes it to Indy Victory Lane and gets the applause of the largest crowd ever to witness an International Race of Champions event. Mark, you absolutely had to do it the hard way, getting the congratulations of his young son, Matt, who's taken up racing himself. You had to do it the most difficult way, starting dead last in this field, and you come home in front.
Oh, man, I got a bunch of things I want to say. First of all, I want to thank Pontiac and True Value, IROC, Signori and all of IROC, all the sponsors, Goodyear, and all the folks that support this thing. This is truly the highlight of my career. I mean, this is it, man. This is the best, and I want to thank him. You know, I hate that for Jimmy Vassar. He was doing such a fine job, and I stole it right there at the end. You hate to lose that close to the end, but did that to him at Charlotte, too, and great race car driver, doing a great job, but we just had what we needed today.
Congratulations.
Well, Jack, as we suggested, both emotional and historic. Here's the official finish now. Only the 5th time that an IROC race has been won from the last starting position. And as we take a look at the points, Mark Martin had 2 wins, a 2nd and a 3rd this season to take the championship. Now let's go back to Jack Arute.
Sometimes you have to keep rerunning the race. Jimmy Vassar so close, Al Unser Jr. having to follow all the action. Your version of this very quickly is before we go to break.
It was a heck of a race. I want to congratulate Mark Martin. You know, when he pulled up next to me, I told him, you're the best, and he is the best.
Hey, Jimmy, real quick, was it like having a time bomb? Did you think you could hold on?
You know, those guys were there from 20 laps. I was surprised I lasted that long. I think I just drove the front tires off the car, and you know, I seen some chunks of some tires out there. I knew guys were having a problem, and I just couldn't get it to hook up off of 2 and 4 like Mark, and he got underneath me. I did everything I could as long as I could.
Heck of a run for both these guys, Paul.
Well, and we take a look at the payout, too. Mark Martin with the most. Jeff Burton, despite the accident early, still comes home with $100,000 in his pocket. Don't forget, next on ABC Sports, the Tour de France special. 20th stage as they head toward Paris. Now, let's go back to our Wide World of Sports studio, New York, and our host, Robin Roberts.